One of the most important progression aspects of Monster Hunter is of course the process of crafting and upgrading all kinds of armors and weapons. And in this video I'm going to be giving you guys a progression path comprised of what I believe to be the best weapons and armors for you to use as you progress throughout Monster Hunter Wilds from the very beginning of the game up until you reach the end game. And of course I will be keeping this video spoiler free as much as possible so that you don't need to worry about anything. With that being said, hello everyone, my name is Dark Hero and let's get started. As far as weapon goes, it's actually pretty simple and you're going to have a couple of very clear options that you're going to want to craft pretty much near the very start of the game that are going to help you out massively if you do them in the right order. So you're going to start out with the Hope weapon. We're using the Sword and Shield as an example here. So the very second monster that you're going to be hunting in the game is going to be Chemistris, aka the Fire Chicken. And if you have the necessary materials, I would recommend you to go ahead and craft a Chemistris weapon for you. So in the case of the Sword and Shield, it's the Chemistris Cuchillo level 1. I personally did this with the dual blades, which also have a pretty sick design in my opinion. The reason why you're going to want to do this is because quite a few of the monsters that you're going to be fighting from this point on are either going to massively be weak to fire or are going to be neutral to it. And for that very reason, having a weapon like this that is going to help you deal more damage against most of those monsters or at least be neutral to it is of course going to be beneficial to you. That said, eventually you will run into the apex monster of the Scarlet Forest known as Uthduna. And this guy, despite being a water monster, actually takes a decent amount of damage from fire weapons, but what you're going to want to do after defeating him is of course craft his weapons. In the case of the dual blades, it would be these ones right here, and if your preferred weapon type does not have an Uthduna weapon that you can craft, you can at least craft the Balahara weapons, which are also water element. Because the idea here, much like with the Chemistris weapons, the monsters that you're going to be fighting from this point on, a lot of them are going to be severely weak to water or are going to be neutral to it. This is after all the point in the game in which you start to go into the oil well basin that has quite a few monsters that are weak to water. And honestly, as far as weapons go, you are pretty much covered for the entirety of low rank in Monster Hunter Wilds, as these two elements, fire and water, are going to cover pretty much every single weakness that the monster has. So when you finish the story and reach high rank, that is going to be a different story. That said, let's talk about the armor sets and how you're going to be progressing through them so you can have the best ones equipped at all times. As for your armor set, the starting Hope armor set is actually quite good, as it provides you with Divine Blessing level 3, which is in my opinion one of the very best, if not the best defensive skill in the entire game, giving you a chance of taking reduced damage each time that you take damage. And at level 3, if Divine Blessing procs, you'll only take 50% of the damage that you would normally take. So that is pretty fantastic. Stun resistance is also quite nice, reducing the duration of the stun by 60% at level 2. And if you are someone that is still learning the game, you're going to get hit a lot, and that can of course lead to you getting stunned here or there, and that can help alleviate that problem. For that reason, I would actually not recommend you to upgrade out of the Hope armor set and move on to a different one up until you have a few hours into the game and you reach the oil well basin. By then you'll gain access to a bunch of ores that you're able to obtain very easily without even needing to hunt a single monster. Simply open up the map like this, and on the bottom left corner of the screen, go here into the filter icons and select the mining outcrops, set them as your waypoint, and run up to these mining nodes and make sure that you extract as many of them as you can so you can use these materials to craft the Iron Ingot armor set. Now the reason why I say you need to wait to reach the oil well basin is I think you need to obtain a firestone in order to be able to unlock the armor set to craft these different pieces, even though some of them do not require having a firestone. And the idea here is you basically want to replace the armor pieces from your basic armor set with the ones that come with Divine Blessing. So those would be the helmet and the waist. Unfortunately, you cannot obtain Divine Blessing level 3 out of the Ingot armor set, and there is no set bonus that you get out of it, but you get a lot more defense by equipping these two armor pieces. As you can see, each of them comes with 16 defense, whereas with the Hope armor set, each of them only comes with 2 defense. So that is a pretty big upgrade. That said, another monster you'll be able to hunt in the oil well basin is going to be a Jarakan, and his armor set is also very good for low rank for a couple of particular reasons. For one, it comes with Part Breaker level 3, which is the key ingredient, as in this game you're going to be focusing on different monster parts, hitting them over and over to create wounds, and this will make it easier for you to cut a monster's tail, break the horns, all of that, which of course is going to lead to more wounds as well, because by doing so I believe there is a higher chance of you getting a wound. But also whenever you break a monster part, you always get a material out of it. So by having Part Breaker level 3, you are effectively being able to get more monster materials out of every monster that you defeat, so that is why this skill is so good. weapon. And of course, the extra damage that you deal against wounded parts is very nice. Bombardier level 3 is also a pretty decent skill at this point in the game, as by now you will have already fought Nursilla, and the thing about Nursilla is, you can craft this weapon for your Palico, and that can often lead to monsters falling asleep in the middle of the hunt. And whenever a monster is asleep, of course what you want to do is always bring a couple of large barrel bombs with you. You place a big one next to the monster, and you place a second one away from it, and you chuck that second one at the monster to create a huge explosion, and the first hit is going to deal double damage. And thanks to Bombardier, both of these explosions will be dealing 30% more damage. And of course that is just a nice bonus of damage on top. Now blast resistance doesn't really matter too much, as cliffhanger doesn't matter too much as well, and fortify is a nice bonus if you are someone that is new to the Monster Hunter series, as whenever you faint, or as we call it in a community, you cart on a quest, you will gain a significant attack and defense buff. So the set bonus is essentially going to help you close out the fight if you are having trouble with some of the later fights in the game. Now from this point in the game, you're going to enter the final parts of low rank, and you are crossing into high rank. Without spoiling anything, my recommendation at this point would be for you to craft the armor set, the final one that you have available to craft in low rank, as the set bonus that it has is honestly pretty insane. It provides you with a lot of healing and sustain, so I would honestly go out of my way to craft 4 different armor pieces from the very final armor set in low rank and use it far into high rank. Your defense levels are going to be slightly below the high rank armor sets, but I believe that the extra sustain that you get from this armor set is going to make up for it. That said, if you are okay with me spoiling, the final low rank armor set that you can craft in the game, that is from a monster that Capcom has already revealed and you were able to fight against in one of the beta tests, then let me show you. And that is actually the Guardian Arkveld armor set. Not only does it look phenomenal, but it comes with the skill Flayer, which is a much better version of Part Breaker that I explained to you before. Seriously, this skill is nuts. Probably one of the very best in the entire game. It basically makes it a lot easier to create wounds on the monsters. You have to do a lot less attacks to proc them, and also you'll be doing a lot more damage after hitting said wounds. And applying wounds is by far the best thing that you can do in Monster Hunter Wilds, as not only does it provide you with additional resources for a lot of weapons that you can play with, but whenever you use a focus strike on the wounded part of a monster, 99% of the times the monsters are going to be locked down and they cannot move, and they will just take the entire damage from that animation, and a lot of times they will be even knocked down onto the floor, leaving themselves vulnerable for you to deal a lot more damage. And as if that wasn't enough, you then get the 4-piece set bonus, the Decimator from Guardian Arkveld, which is just insane. Basically, whenever you destroy a monster wound, you get to recover some additional HP, and this skill is pretty nutty. Now you can have the 2-piece set bonus Decimator level 1, and you're still going to get a little bit of healing out of this, but with the 4-piece set bonus, it's pretty much equivalent to a singular potion, if not more than that. Not only that, but this stacks with skills such as Recovery Up, which increase the amount of healing that you get from any source in the game, and if the monster has multiple wounds and you break all of them at once, you're going to heal from all of them, effectively having a mega potion on the monster that you can access by just using a focus strike on the monster. You also get Blight Resistance level 3, effectively nullifying all kinds of elemental blights, which is a nice bonus on top, and you get Wilt Burst as well as a set bonus, but this one doesn't really matter too much. It basically increases the recovery speed of your stamina and the red portion of your health whenever you are near the Wilt crystals that can only be found in one map out of the entire game. And I personally did this exact same thing. I crafted a 4-piece Guardian Arkveld armor set and went into high rank with it pretty much all the way up until the end game, because I was able to heal so much and sustain through all of the damage that the monsters dealt to me by simply applying wounds and then consuming them with focus strike. That said, on the topic of weapons, once you reach high rank, you're going to want to either craft a poison weapon that is going to help you chunk the monster's HP, because in high rank they have a lot more health and having a weapon with poison is going to be much more effective, or you'll want to craft some dragon elemental weapons. If you have more Guardian Arkveld materials from getting his armor set, you may be able to also craft his weapons, which come with the dragon element. And the reason why you want the dragon element once you reach the high rank portion of the game is that, quite simply, a lot of the monsters that you're going to be fighting from this point on are either weak to dragon or neutral to it. And especially the monsters that you'll be hunting a lot in the end game, those are weak to dragon, so having a weapon that is already being crafted and upgraded on its its way to high rank that is going to be strong against those monsters is a good thing. And naturally, you should also try to have weapons of different elements so that you are out on a quest hunting a specific monster, you can select the elements that they are weak against. Other than that, in high rank, you can go ahead and craft a few more armor sets if you want to. Keep in mind that once you reach high rank, any piece of armor that you craft is going to be automatically unlocked as layered armor set. So if you like the look of the chainmail armor set, for example, you can craft the helmet and then you can have the helmet as a layered armor. Again, the defense stat of these armor pieces and these armor sets is going to be superior than the Guardian Arcveld armor set from low rank, so I think that that one is more beneficial. Also keep in mind that a lot of these armor sets that you get once you reach high rank are now going to have alpha and beta versions. So what's the difference? Essentially, the alpha version of an armor piece is going to be more beginner friendly, but it's going to be less complete the more you have in the end game. That is to say that if you take a look at this Vestpoint helm, it comes with 32 defense, which is the same for the beta version. The stats themselves are identical. The difference is the fact that the alpha version does not have a singular decoration slot. You can see that below the 32 defense rating on the helmet, but it does have a couple of skills: survival expert and ambush. However, the beta version of the same helmet misses out on having ambush, but instead has a level 2 decoration slot that you can use. So these beta versions are always going to be much more customizable because of the additional decoration slots that they provide, but as a result, they're going to come with less skills by default. It's up to you to decide whether or not it is worth it to go for the alpha version, knowing that if you go for the beta version, you'll need to have a decoration to slot into the decoration slot. Otherwise, you are going to be at a deficit for skills. That said, it is recommended that you always go for the beta version of most of these armor sets, as a lot of the times it is a lot more cost efficient, and once you get farming decorations in the end game, which I'll have an entire guide for in the future, you'll be able to fit your armor pieces with the exact decorations that you need to make the perfect mix. Because for example, in the case of these Vestpoint helms, ambush is a pretty worthless skill in my opinion, unless you're running some sort of cheesy strat with a greatsword to wake up with a powerful sneak attack, and I would much rather have a level 2 decoration slot that I can then fill with a powerful decoration, such as Coalescence for example. That said, as for the final endgame builds for each different weapon, what kind of armor sets you should be using, what kind of skills you should look out for, which decorations are the best, I'm going to have a couple of videos dedicated to answering those questions, as I have already crafted well over a dozen armor sets that are prepared for the endgame of Monster Hunter Wilds, so if you want to know more about that, please subscribe to the channel. With that being said, my name is Dark Hero, thank you all so much for watching, and as always, happy hunting!